You shouldn't just have this arbitrary creative director role with this brand, right? Like, you should actually be integrating your work into what, their challenges, or they should allow you to sit at the table and understand the business. And so that's why I think my sweet spot is able to not only speak all the languages, but understand it and sit in the middle.
Welcome to Shaping Freedom with Lisan Basquiat, the podcast where we help you unlock your potential and redefine what it means to be free. I'm your host, Lisan Basquiat. I'm a former corporate executive, a life strategist, and the founder of Shaping Freedom. With a background spanning corporate, artistic, and personal development, I bring a unique perspective to empowering others. Listen in to discover inspiring stories and practical insights that will help you reclaim your life and rewrite your narrative. My intention is for you to gain the tools and motivation to be free in your relationships, your communities, and within yourself. This, my friends, is Shaping Freedom.
So we're in the age of the creative, and how can we support those creatives who are out there working to not only continue to produce their work authentically, but also to find tangible success so that they can continue to create the works that they are wanting to bring into the world? Today, I'm speaking with Ian Davis. He's the founder of the Age of the Creative, and we're going to talk about where creativity and business acumen meet. But first, we started this interview both feeling a little bit frazzled. And what Ian was willing to do and to offer was a moment of meditation for all of us. So before we dive deep into the conversation, I encourage you to find yourself a really comfortable place to sit and allow Ian Davis to walk you through a few moments to get calm, to connect to your breath, to get to your center so that you can really receive the conversation that we're ready to have. The next voice that you'll hear will be that of Ian Davis. Welcome to the Shaping Freedom with Lisan Basquiat podcast. I'm Lisan Basquiat, I'm your host, and I am very chilled out right now and very happy and excited to be having the conversation that we're getting ready to have. My guest today is a man who is the founder of the Age of the Creative, and the mission of which is to equip and empower the artist and creative community with the resources to expand and to be their highest and best selves. And I would like to thank and welcome Ian Davis to this episode. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and inviting me. I'm so grateful to be here.
Yeah. We met a couple of weeks ago at an event where you were on the panel, and you talked a lot about the work that you do with creatives, within For Creatives. And you also shared your meditation practice and how important that is. And as soon as you started speaking, I noted to Billy that I really would love to have you come on the show because the work that you do is right up the alley of what's important to me and what I think is really important for the world right now. So thank you so much for answering the invite, for responding positively to the invite. And thank you for giving us a moment to just stop. Today was a bit of a flurry, and I think for both of us in some ways it was a bit of a flurry, and so that was an amazing reminder to just chill out, take a breath, bring myself into this moment, and I'm glad that the audience got a chance to experience that too, right along with us.
Me too. Yeah. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for from that conversation, for seeing the work. That really means a lot.
Yeah,
I think as a creative entrepreneur, doing this for a long time, and I know you've been doing it for a long time too, sometimes it gets challenging not to compare yourself to other people, but when other people see your work, it's and it's not a sort of affirmation, if you will, but it's more of just like knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So it's almost like I feel honored when somebody sees me and the work, and sees the work and the impact of the work. That really something that feels good and fulfilled. It makes me feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
Lets me know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I agree. I always feel the same way that, sometimes I'm out here and I'm doing something and it's like my passion, my purpose, and I'm so connected to it and want to share it. And sometimes it just takes a person saying one thing, that they heard something I said, or that they saw something that I posted, that gives me that little confirmation that, oh, somebody sees me, And so that was really what led me to ask you to come and chat with me today. It's just like, wow, I see this dude. I see what he's up to. I see what he's doing. I see his heart and what he's doing. And I think we have to support each other.
For sure.
Call each other out and also call each other forward.
Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit about who you are and what's happening in your world, Ian.
I'm a son, a brother, partner. I'm a vessel. I just do my best to allow God to move through me and move with love. I try not to box. I don't like being boxed in. And so I do my best to not box myself in, not box others in. My career, I've always been a creative. And the pandemic really brought a lot of that part of my work out. Being in service to the creative community, as you mentioned, right? Don't really see it that way, because there's a lot of things I've helped and do help with on the sort of business side of things, and furthering business of the creativity. Before the pandemic, I was kind of working on how, when we work with brands and different companies, how we speak to the clients, or the partners. I like to use partner, the language of partner and resource versus client and vendor, right? It's all semantics, but I like to use that language.
Something. Yeah. Words mean something.
I agree. Yeah. So it feels like a more symbiotic relationship versus, somebody that's more easily disposable, in my opinion.
Right.
And so I realized, what our power was as a consultancy is creative problem solving. And that is, not taking the traditional, and you can call it agency too, but I don't say agency specifically because I think that we're a partner and a resource and we do problem solve, versus, hey, we're going to do this service for you. It's like we come to the table and we sit with you, understand your challenges, we understand your goals, we understand your objectives. And around those things, how can we help you achieve whatever the goal is? How can we help solve the problem? And I realized a lot of the ways that we did that were creative. It wasn't, let me get an art director and copywriter and do XYZ for you, right? My background's in advertising. So when you think about agency setting, or even thinking about experiential, it's like, hey, you got to get this event producer and do this whole activation and big thing. So I realized, my approach to things was different than a lot of other companies. And so it's all creative. I'm like, man, I'm really creatively doing, and I am a creative too. I grew up playing music. I grew up shooting, right? Photo, videography. I grew up, everything that everybody that I work with, I understand them because I've done some of that work. Maybe not at a high level, right? But I understand what it takes to do that work. And so, I'm a creative and I'm a vessel, and I really am grateful for the opportunity at a very, very early point in my career to understand my passion, and that is to help people. And so when you talk about the mission, equipping and empowering, right? It took me a while to kind of pinpoint who, because I help everybody, right? That's just kind of in my nature. But from a business perspective, when I started my company, right, you have to do the whole value proposition thing. Who am I helping? Who am I serving? Who's my audience, etc. And so I was like, okay, creatives. And then the last couple of years specifically honed in like creatives and entertainment. And so I'm just a vessel. Like I said, I allow him to work through me, and the things that I'm up to are really working to grow my offerings. You asked me earlier off camera, I'm doing this sort of consolidation of my business because there's been a lot of different things that I've done, and I'm grateful for those opportunities. But I also realize like the outside perception for people that might not know me could be a little confusing, right? So I'm going through this process of that consolidation, but also that like reintroduction, right? When I think about that reintroduction, Jay-Z song comes up, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hov, like, right? So it's like I'm working through that. I'm so grateful for one of my event manager, one of my partners that helps bring some of the things to life. You know, he spoke that into me. And he was like, yeah, you're doing a lot of stuff in the wellness space. That's great. You can just kind of be known as that guy that does the meditations, mindfulness, the workshops. He's like, the thing I liked about your work was the name of your company is called The Age of the Creative.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. And so he was like, you know, I would be doing a disservice to myself to not take those opportunities that come in the wellness space, but also be able to position my company to do, to problem solve, to support whoever it is that I'm working with, whether, you know, I'm hired as a speaker, as a teacher, somebody to come facilitate, or, right, I can do that. Plus, let me actually help you build out the programmings, right? Let me actually help you engage your company, your customers, etc. So that's at the top of my priority list. In addition to, as far as what I'm up to, in addition to, you know, going through this launch process of these mindful cards that I just released for World Meditation Day and Mental Health Awareness Month. So driving that up.
You wrote a book also. Yeah,
you know, I created it. I haven't wrote yet. I'm working on that.
Okay.
So the two books that I created, one is this My Daily Vibe. This is the smaller 90-day version. I have a 365-day version too. So it's a journal for creatives to be their highest and best selves that taps into the language of the mission that you mentioned. And so every day, right, you can use it for however long consecutively, but every day there's different prompts, and you can take a look at that.
Thank you.
There's different prompts in there every day. So I created that based off of doing some of the workshops, engaging with the creative community and seeing what was out there, what wasn't out there. There's a bunch of different journals out there that people use on a daily basis, but I think accountability is really, really paramount for everybody, but specifically creatives. If you're working on a project, if you want to go, you know, take your business to this next level, whatever the case may be, right? You really have to kind of work on accountability, but also consistency, right? And so I love, you know, what I created. A friend of mine years ago, I got the inspiration to create it because she handed me like a little small, like journal notebook thing. It was just a blank notebook. It had quotes top of every page. And I was like, oh, this is dope. And it said her name. Shout out to Sharifa Murdoch. It said Sharifa Says, just branded that way. And it's just blank pages. And I was like, one day I'll do something like this. And the pandemic brought that out as I started teaching my meditation, mindfulness stuff. I was like, what can I create as a supplement to the work that I'm doing? And so similar to you, right? Like in the space of not only problem solving, it's like, what offerings and things that I create that, one, can not only live on forever, two, that could help people, right? And so there's those two versions of the journal, the 90 and 365 day. And then there's the mindful coloring book. I don't have a copy of that with me to show everybody, but somebody actually stole my copy that I always have.
Oh my gosh.
And so I hope they benefit from it. I spoke at an event, not the one that we were at, but I spoke at an event, and it just disappeared.
They borrowed it for a while.
Yeah.
It's gone out into the world.
Right.
To help somebody do something.
I hope they get what they need from it.
Yeah.
But I did that, and then the mindful cards, you know, super grateful for these. Yeah. So we'll just place them here. You know, a lot of people, I try to do stuff that, when I create stuff that can be like visually appealing, right? That speaks to the creative community. So I'm really, really intentional about how I do things, not only in creating and offering, but just engaging with people. I think that that's one of my like superpowers and things that make me unique.
Yeah. What I love about this, and it's very simple. It's, black cover, white letters, little orange in there for some creativity.
Yeah. Oranges,
I know.
You're tapped in.
For sure. I am. But it's very powerful. It's very powerful. It feels powerful. So what I love about this is you have every day like a check-in for people. And then you have quotes on the top, and one being create, there will never be another today. And that's Ian Davis. That's you.
I pull quotes from things that I would see and things that I read on a daily basis, but then other things that during the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, every morning early in my career, I'd send out these like morning inspiration emails. And I would just find quotes from different things that I would read or see. Yeah. And so, the quotes that are in the journals are, things that I liked from notable people and not notable people and anonymous people. And things that I've just said myself, right?
And just something to kind of take into your day with you. What I love about this is, and then you have space for, notes and journaling, and for someone to kind of jot down what's coming up for them in this. What I love about the work that you're doing, Ian, is that creatives create. And sometimes there's this idea or this belief that you can't be a creative and then also have business acumen. And I think that that's where I do believe that this is the age of the creative. Never have I seen as many different ways of expressing your creativity in the world. I mean, from social media to, people who create works, visual art, writers. I mean, there's a lot out there. And it can be a struggle sometimes. What are some of the challenges that you see creatives having?
Specifically what you said, the business acumen side, right? Early in my career, I started out in advertising. So my journey has been, when I talk about like that reintroduction, I had to also like own my body of work.
Yeah.
And affirm myself in that process. Not that fortunately, I don't struggle with like self-confidence or insecurity. Like that's just not something I've been challenged with, but you get in the thick of the work and things may not be happening on the timeline that you want or manifesting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had to like reaffirm myself, like, I'm really him. Like, let's go through my body work, my case, all the things. And so to answer your question directly, the things that I see creatives challenged with is the business, right? When I started out in advertising, I was in the agency I was at, really, really big holding companies. So I was involved in their ERG, the Black Employee Network. Obviously, they would do stuff during Black Music Month, Black History Month, other times of the year as well. And for some of those engagements, I was pulling in as I was building my community. New York, I was, a lot of the people were creatives. They didn't work typical 9-to-5s. So I would bring in my friends and the people, that are on the street doing dope stuff, visual artists, musicians, writers, etc. And so I'm like, man, it would be dope if, this musician, this artist, this creative had the opportunity to work with not only my agency, but one of my clients, right? Why isn't Delta Airlines working with, at the time, Joshua Kissy and Travis Gums to do travel etiquette, et cetera, right? They would just kind of see them as, in my opinion, just, sort of blogger, like, oh, you can only do this, but it's like their powers are so vast. When I talk about that business acumen, what I would see in starting to bring some of my friends in the community into some of the work was that they couldn't speak the language of the marketers. And that wasn't because they didn't want to. There's this very specific jargon and understand, like you really have to, when you get into it, things can kind of go over your head. And so I was able to realize that because I sat on the marketing and advertising side, I understood it, right? I studied broadcast journalism, I minored in marketing, was working at an ad agency out of college, was a job that I wanted. I got the job that I wanted. And so then when I, got out of advertising, was freelancing for a little bit, working with artists directly, I just realized they had a manager, had an agent maybe, but on a day-to-day basis, they really couldn't do things for themselves. And that's not more on the business side of things. And that's
they
why
needed someone to speak that
they
language,
needed somebody to speak the
translate.
language, right? Because I think that, when you think about agents, WME, CAA, all the bigger sort of agencies, in my opinion, a lot of their focus is on, the deal. Let's bring in as much money as possible, which I think is great, right, for the artist and creative community. But you need somebody that understand, like, that has strategy. Like, what's the long-term strategy? If you're going to work on this deal point, you shouldn't just have this arbitrary creative director role with this brand, right? Like, you should actually be integrating your work into what, their challenges, or they should allow you to sit at the table and understand the business. And so that's why I think my sweet spot is able to not only speak all the languages, but understand it and sit in the middle, right? So I can talk to the marketers and the business people. I can talk to the creative because I've done the work, right? And I had to hire talent as a producer and things like that. And also, again, these people were my friends. So those are the things that I saw, and what prompted me to start the company after working in advertising, after doing, special projects, freelance, things like that with different artists and creatives, after even managing creative talent as well. That's what really prompted me to start the company. But then also, I think, something that I think I heard from your bio at that at the event that we did, that came out, was kind of being a better creative. And that's been, the last 4 years of my work, which comes into like the products, right?
You mean you're referring to yourself?
No, for creatives specifically.
Okay.
So how do creatives do they have the tools to be a better creative?
Got it.
From a business perspective, so personal development, from their well-being perspective, and from a financial well-being or financial wellness perspective.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I saw and that I see that aren't really being addressed. There's so much happening. Creator economy, there's grant programs and this and that. There's accelerators, right? And a lot of it, in my opinion, and even from a programmatic and event perspective, there's just a lot of fluff and things that don't really cut through.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've created the things that I've done and do the things that I do. I think anybody that's been to anything, anybody that has any of my products can sit there and be like, this actually, and I think it's a start. I'm not saying that the things that I do are the end all be all and the greatest solution. Yeah. So it's just a starting point, right? Yeah. And then how can we continue to develop, right? Beyond, when you first get this product, when you first come to this event, et cetera, right? How can we build that accountability to continue to grow?
Yeah. I think part of the challenge is that there's this persona of the creative where the person is completely not business savvy, and they're struggling and they're suffering. And that's kind of part of the game, right? That I actually was talking to a friend recently within the last 12 months, and the person said that every creative is like broke, I'm paraphrasing what the person said. And I thought that's so interesting. That's fascinating. Like that, first of all, it doesn't make sense. And secondly, I think that has a lot to do with the persona that we've created for creatives, where we just imagine this person who's just, not like, you have to choose between being financially viable and creating. And there seems to be this idea that you have to choose one or the other. And I don't believe that at all. I think it also places creatives in kind of a victim space in a way, from my perspective. I think that we have our strengths, and it's a matter of understanding where to fill in the gaps.
Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary collection because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information.
You know, where you need them. I think it's that. And I think that's one of the things that I really am, one of the things that intrigues me about your work is that you seem to get that. You seem to understand that. And you also speak the language of the creative. So you can serve it up in a way that's much different than the way perhaps a very large, you know, kind of corporate monster of a company would serve it up, where that person, that creative, really doesn't have an in to understanding, or where they feel or believe that they have to fake it in order to get the deal or get the support that they're looking for. How do you interact and engage with creatives? How does this look?
I used to be very, very proactive. And to an extent, I still am. As I mentioned a moment ago.
And you have a resource library or?
Yeah, resource platform. So that's the products, that's the programming, that's the accelerators, right? Done pop-ups. That's what that is for specifically. I realized, like I said, that certain things didn't exist. I was like, let me do this because and cutting through, it's like, how do I cut through? I think I know from experience, from working with people directly. But then now it used to be, as I mentioned, it used to be very, very proactive. And now it's at a space where you kind of have to let people come to you. So I'm more proactive on the B2B front, you know, on the partnership front. When I work with different companies, how can we work together? How can whatever I'm doing, you know, solve a business challenge or a challenge that they have, whether it's their audience that they want to engage or connect with, or new audience, etc. Right? Maybe internally. For the creative side of it, as far as how I speak to them, it's being able to bring them in. So again, now it's a little less proactive, but more let me just do what I'm doing and everything will come.
Right.
And I say that because what I had to realize, I learned a few years ago about human design, and I realized I learned what my human design was, and that's my design. I'm a generator. And so the strategy of a generator is to respond. And so, right, if something comes up instead of me, I've worked for everything I've gotten. And so when I talk about being proactive, I will knock down your door until I get what I need to get. And sometimes I might not get what I need to get out of that door. But that's great to know, like, okay, I'm not going to get what I needed to get out of this door, what I wanted or what I hoped for. So I'm going to go to the next door. I'm going to shake every tree. And so now it's, you know, like I said, it's a little less proactive, but allowing myself to create. It's doing these products. And I say that it's not as proactive because I've had a lot of my time wasted in being proactive. And then also I realized that's why I created the resource platform. You know, a lot of the people that I would love, and I started, you know, the nonprofit arm or the foundation of the company, a lot of people I want to work with wouldn't have the resources financially, right? As far as like what I would maybe be able to charge to work with me, you know, and that's unfortunate because it's like, I'm running a business, so I have to, right? I have to take care of myself.
That's one of the realities of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a little less proactive, but there's different things, there's different ways and tools, right? And that's why I started the resource platform, for it to be tangible. So whether you're from a quarter, whether we activate quarterly or monthly, or, you know, whatever our cadence is, you can come and engage and hopefully get what you need or get the starting point to the things that you need. And then as a follow-up and as a supplement, there's these products, right? So there's the journal, there's the creative notebook, there's the coloring book, there's now the mindful cards. A lot of this stuff over the last few years has kind of, the wellness stuff is elevated a little bit more because that part of the work has taken off. But you know, it's, like I said, it's a little less proactive and more just like, let me put my things out into the world. right? And those, anybody, will come. And sometimes that's hard to, as you know, as an entrepreneur as well, that's hard to sit with and just let be, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you have a bottom
Because you're
line,
like,
you have
you want to,
things,
you want to do things.
you have things you need to take care of, whatever your situation is.
So I know what your mission is. We talked about it. All right. What's your vision for the creative community, or for the businesses that are working with the creative community? What is your vision?
My vision, I would say, with the company, and I think it has manifested actually. And this year is the celebrate 9 years, but it's actually the 10th year of operating. Yeah, thank you. So it's been, I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I think I haven't had the sort of pop off scalable moment, but I also don't know. I would love that. I don't know if that's where I'm supposed to be. If there's supposed to be this sort of crazy high visibility around this work, or if it's right, like intimate. If you know, I've had the opportunity to work with people that have, emerging artists and emerging talent to Pulitzer Prize winners, Oscar, Grammy, etc. And so from a vision perspective, I see, and that's why I said it's really manifested. Age of the Creative is the go-to resource for the creative and the brand community. The brands that want to engage with the creative community, you can come and meet these creatives where they are, because that's what we're doing, right? It's the go-to resource. It's a network support engine. So yes, I can, right? And I work with, said brand as an example. We might be doing a dinner series together, right? Here's a great example. There's this amazing artist I met on the train. Her name is Jessica Betts. She's an amazing singer, guitar player. Met her on the train in New York. I don't know how long ago. Got her information. I think at the time, she probably still does, had a SoundCloud. Maybe got her email. I don't know what I was doing. I, wrote her, wanted to connect with her. Didn't hear back. Ran into her again on the train later, maybe a couple of years. Like, hey, I hit you up. You didn't. So I followed up. She got back to me. I brought her in for this Supper Club dinner series I was doing with this really, really amazing brand. And I still work with them. And, I created this program because they wanted to, build community. And this brand is really dope. But I think the perception of this brand is very 40-year-old white woman. But then when you actually get in the store and you see the programming that they were doing and this and that, it's really, really dope. And so what I was able to do is actually not only shift the perspective of the brand by bringing people in that wouldn't normally be customers or that wouldn't know about what this brand was doing, right, for this experience. I brought this artist in, right, because I knew she would want the opportunity to work with a brand like this. One, to get paid to do the work that she already does. Two, and to engage with a new, win a new audience, right, to support her. And so, not long after working with her, not long after that engagement, and I don't know where she's at as far as her art, but I know she's way more visible now. She got married to Niecy Nash, right? So now she has a platform from her family who she's connected to, right? Having, she got some placement on, I think it was Claws, right? For her work. I think she even appeared on camera in some of that work, maybe that show or another show, right? So now she's been able to grow the business of her creativity and have new opportunities. And I think that that's the thing that, from a strategic perspective, that creatives don't necessarily think about, is like building. Yes, you have these goals and intentions, but what are other strategies to get you to build your business,
right,
in perpetuity, that you don't have to necessarily, like, oh, in her example, I don't, maybe now she doesn't have to go on tour for 6, 8, 12 months, whatever the case may be, because she had a licensing and sync deal.
Right. It's expanding versus like that straight direct transaction.
Right. So, that's from a vision perspective, it's like she was able to grow that. I put her into an opportunity to do that. But then, right, what would it look like? And we're still cool, nothing we're on good terms and all that, like nothing happened or anything like that. But what would it look like to actually now work with her instead of just calling her and say, hey, Jess, I have this opportunity for you, da 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 da. What would it look like to be, her strategist to work with if she has a PR person, if she has a manager, if she has an agent, and say, hey, these are the type of opportunities that we want for Jess, right? These are the brands that we want to work with. So when I talk about not only being the go-to resource, it's being that network support engine, right? Being able to talk to everybody that is on her team or even help build her team and say, okay, you need publicity, right? What's the publicity strategy? Not the press junket. You got this show coming out, so for the next 2 days, I'm going to go do this, this, and this. That's great because that does help with the visibility if you go on the right places, but there has to be a storytelling narrative, in my opinion, right? And I think that's what's missing from a lot of creatives. So when you ask me about the vision, it's like Age of the Creative being the go-to resource, being the go-to network support engine. You know that this company does this, that Age of the Creative or Ian is the guy, Ian and his team are the people that you need to work with. And I think that that's what sets us apart. And I think that when you ask me, how do I cut through? I know how to engage the creative community because not only are they my friends, not only did I do the work, but I know to speak their language, and I get the things that they need. I'm part of that community. So I get it, and I think a lot of my work has proven that over time. So hopefully that answers your question as far as like what the vision is. I don't think I've scaled it. I don't think I've had the moment yet. I've had really, really great moments. It's been, businesses like this sometimes. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes it's like this. So I'm looking from a vision perspective to have more stability, more consistency, more sincerity from a partner, client, people that we work with perspective. People we work with that are sincere about the work, aren't iffy. You know what I mean? Because I have things that I need to do for myself and for my business. My business needs to grow. Mm-hmm. So that's what I hope for. And like I said, some of it I think has actually manifested. We've done the work, but now it's just like let's go here. Yeah. Let's not do this anymore. Let's go here and keep it going.
And by this, he's talking about the roller coaster.
Yeah.
The roller coaster ride that many entrepreneurial companies are on, where they're like, it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
Fast and slow, all of it at the same time.
Yep.
Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary Collection because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information.
Let's talk about wellness, the wellness piece of all this, because that's a huge part of what you're doing right now. And it's also the basis for the products that you're putting out into the market. What have you learned?
I said this in the conversation that we were in together with Virgil, who's in the cannabis space. And I realized that I was going to meet with a friend. That might be hard to get open. I was going to meet with a friend.
I'll work on it.
The friend kept rescheduling the meeting, and I was on my way to the meeting, and the friend canceled the meeting, and I was pissed. And the friend, very what I would deem as successful in the cannabis space, and it was a space I wanted to cut into. And on the way back to my apartment and being pissed, the meeting was canceled. And feeling like my time was wasted, it just hit me. And it was like, wellness. Creatives use cannabis as a wellness tool, as a wellness modality, in a number of ways, not just the like, I need to be calm, right? So it led me then, I was already doing the workshops. I was doing a lot of personal development, goal and intention setting, like building the foundations of the business of your creativity, etc. And so what I did was essentially replicated that same format as far as like how I programmed it and said, okay, let me do the same exact thing, but in the wellness space. Creatives need wellness, and not just cannabis now. So I came out to Malibu and worked with Little Beach House Malibu or Soho House, and did the first wellness activation for the resource platform. I brought out Janae Aiko, Milana Snow, and Kendra Frazier. And so from a programmatic perspective, when I think about not only like the personal development track and giving, those tangible tools and resources, but for the wellness track, I always like to pair, a creative that other creatives can relate to. And I like to pair, a subject matter luminary, expert, etc. Because it's one thing to have like, somebody like a Janae, and you might be a struggling creative, or right, whatever the case may be, or you maybe want to ascend to where she's at with your work. And then from a wellness perspective, it's like there's somebody that's actually qualified to speak this language to help you get some of the tools that you need. And so that experience is really, really powerful. It led me then to saying like, okay, I'm going to continue this work. I'm going to continue to hold this space. I just thought it would be irresponsible if I was to hold the space and not be qualified in a way to do it. And so I was looking and searching, like, how and where can I be qualified? I had personally a meditation practice. I think this started in maybe 2011 or 12. And as I was just kind of searching and seeing like what I can do, I knew I didn't want to go back to school and, become a clinician or whatever, therapist or whatever the case may be. But I talked about, I wanted to serve. So I looked up, got into an accredited, certified mindfulness and meditation teacher training program. I think that mindfulness and meditation, in my opinion, from a broader well-being and wellness perspective, is kind of like a gateway into your well-being, right? And so if you're mindful about your mental health, you're mindful about your body, you're mindful about how you're feeling, etc., like that opens the door into so many other healing modalities. And so I wanted to go through that to just understand challenges that humans face, how stress and stuff like that shows up. But then, as you mentioned and as you asked, just continue to build resources, continuing to engage. And I think that the other thing that makes the work unique is that for me, it was, realizing that in the space, specifically for creatives, whether it's personal development, whether it is wellness, there's just a lot of conversations happening. There's a lot of panels. Yeah. And I think that these things are great, but they, like, as we've talked about, they don't cut through. Right. It's like, oh, I've been following Lisanne for 10 years and I get a chance to come hear her speak and I'm inspired by what she said. But like, how do you now actually walk? Like, what are you getting with that inspiration? A lot of the times, like, that inspiration will just stay there maybe for a day. It'll stay dormant. Like, are people actually taking the action? And so that's what actually inspired.
That's what I like about this product, because it really gives you actionable steps that you can take. It's something that you have in your toolkit at home. I'm looking, for those of you who are not watching, I have the deck in my hand, the Mindful Deck by Ian Davis, prompts, activities, practices, and meditations for daily mindful living. And what's great about it is that you have this categorized into 3 different types of practices, I guess. One is practice and meditation, and I'm just going to pop one up.
Yeah.
Just read it.
Let's do it.
Practice and meditation. Start your day with 5 deep, mindful breaths to center yourself, focusing on each inhale and exhale. Simple. Something you can just like pull out of the deck. The second category is prompt. And that is write down and repeat a positive affirmation to yourself a few times. Super simple. The third one is activity. Pay attention to each movement and sensation while cleaning. What I love about this, Ian, is that these are things that are simple, that are very simple, very easy to implement in your day. And I could see myself using this in the middle of a day where it's just like, I'm a big, like, I'm just going to randomly pick because God's going to send me to the card or to the page that's the right one for me. Because I am going to get this book, when I start using this, my daily vibe, what I would do is, I know it's 365 page. I know there are 365 pages. I would just randomly open it because I know that the right phrase is going to, the right
whatever,
quote
yeah.
is going to be there. Believe me, the reward is not so great without the struggle. And that's Wilma Rudolph. So I think that what's great about what you're doing and what I find incredibly strategic is that you're doing the work. You're doing the work at the 20,000 foot level, the B2B, you're working with other companies, you're helping to get companies to understand more clearly the language of the creative and vice versa. And you're also finding ways to provide service and support on a daily basis to those folks who are in the creative space and who live and work within creative energy, because creative energy is different.
Yeah.
There's creative, there's transformation, and then there's this creation, transformation, and then there's completion. Completion is just like, it's like a release of something. You just cut it, it's done. Transformation is the ongoing maintenance.
Yep.
You clean your house every day or whatever the thing is that you do.
And that's what this work is, every day.
Yeah, every day. Creation, though, that's laborious. There's uncertainty, there's fear, there's sometimes anxiety, there's a struggle there. And that is what intrigues me so much about that particular energy and the group of people who are within that energy of creation, because it's different. It's completely different. There's a whole different ball game, and we have to find ways to touch and support and hold and see those folks who are playing and working and living within that energy.
Yep.
Whether it's a parent who's, wrestling with their child in the morning as they're getting ready for whatever, or it's a mother who is, giving birth and understanding what that looks like, or parents who are coming together and their lives have shifted completely because now they have young children, to an entrepreneur who's looking to create something new and build something from scratch. And I think that we must pay more attention to not just who people are and what they're up to, but in which energy they're finding themselves. Because I think that's what gets us to being able to truly help them. And I think that is what I see in the work that you're doing. That's where I see the wealth of support and how rich this work is.
Thank you.
Because you're meeting creatives where they are, which is in that moment of like, I just need a word. I need a minute. Like I don't know how to move forward.
Yeah. Also, I think one person that you didn't say is, and I think that at the beginning, as I started doing some of the workshops, it was the people that had maybe 9-to-5s.
Oh, yes.
But wanted to create full time. So they wanted to like monetize their work. And so, they were sort of straddling this line of like, oh, from 9 to 5, I do this, and 5 to 9, I do this. Right. And it's like, the sort of, you have to be responsible to an extent to pay, your bills and live your life and your livelihood, whatever's at stake there. But a lot of times these people will be burning to create full time.
Right. That was me. My creativity is different. It's more about programs and ways that we can help. But I was an executive in corporate for a long time, and I did organizational effectiveness and these large scale projects and things. But I spent the entire time looking out the window like, this is nonsense, And I didn't have I enjoyed my career very much, but it wasn't my path. It was part of my path. Let me change that. It was part of my path.
Yeah.
And what it helped me with was understanding that, and it took me a while. It took me a few years actually to recognize that I didn't have to let go of something completely to do this new thing. There was no need to go from being in in a corporate space and then to have to start at ground zero with being an entrepreneur. This was an opportunity to take what I knew and what I learned and to bring it over into a different space.
Yeah.
And to bring it forward with me.
Yeah. It's funny because I didn't, like my first couple of years in my job, at a school, it was great. I was doing exactly the work that I wanted to do. And I remember, getting paid that salary and the perks that came with that job.
That's right.
It was like, I'm so blessed and grateful because I got hired before the recession. And so I know people, classmates, friends, that weren't able to get a job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, not only being able at an early stage of my career to understand like my passion, but then also kind of see like I was so complacent and good in those roles. I was like, oh man, this is great. These perks are great. I get a chance to do this dope stuff. I always work for somebody. I'll never. And then, kind of got thrown into entrepreneurship. But funny enough, that this is not my first stint with entrepreneurship because I created a business a long time ago. I was a personal trainer. It's like my wellness journey isn't necessarily new. You know what I mean? I played sports a large part of my life. I played in college. So I always, took care of my body and prepped my body for the things that I was doing. But also in tandem with that, like I was an entrepreneur because I was running a personal training business in college and training some of my friends and things like that, right? And getting paid to do that. So it was a little different because I was in college and just, that was just
but
like
it's still
supplemental money. It was a business.
Yeah.
So, the journey's not new and it's just so funny, now being in a position that I didn't see myself being in.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, a few years ago when I was moving, found some like letter that I wrote to myself, like a future self.
I love those finds.
I kept it. Even moving a few more times after that, I didn't even throw it away, but it was just so comical to read. And it was like by 30, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have 4 kids. I'm going to and this and that. And some of those things I didn't have 4 kids, but like some of the things in those things had manifested. And then another thing, I don't even remember when I wrote that. I would have to look back at the date, but it was typed. But it was just so funny to see it from like being on both sides to working for somebody and then working for yourself. Yeah, it's just so interesting.
As we're nearing the end of this conversation, what are 3 nuggets that you could leave for a creative person who might be listening to this conversation and really wanting to find some inspiration, some encouragement? What have you learned that you could share?
Yeah, continue to bet on yourself. Believe in yourself. Like if you don't, nobody else will. And then in believing and betting on yourself, like don't be afraid to jump out the window, jump out the plane. I mean that metaphorically. Take the risk. Some people are calculated risk takers, other people are more not calculated. And so I'm a risk taker. As I mentioned, I've worked for everything I've gotten. And that's something that I just continue to do is bet on myself and jump out the window, because the worst that happens is that you have gained insight and experience from a success or something that maybe wasn't successful. So bet on yourself and take a risk. In addition to that, invest in yourself. What does it look like to have time to yourself every day, to tap in with maybe somebody else and get resources to grow as a creative entrepreneur? What does that look like? Is that it could be therapy from a wellness perspective. It could be other healing and well-being modalities. It could be, coaching is just a really interesting and weird space right now, but it could be that. Excuse me. It could be, joining a membership or, joining some community. I don't necessarily want to say membership because sometimes those exclude people. And so what does it look like to maybe join a community or have access to a community of maybe where you want to be, the type of people you want to be around, the like minds, et cetera.
Which is very important when you're on the creative and the entrepreneurial journey. You want to have people around you who understand the struggle. Do not surround yourself with your Aunt Betty Sue, who's going to tell you that you need to go get a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
make sure that the people who are around you and that that you are calling your support system really are supporting you and holding you up and encouraging you to take the risk, to jump, to jump forward and to do all of that.
Yeah, that's that's some of the work and like the workshop experience, and I tailor it depending on like who we're working with. But I do that sort of that audit of who's in your constant contact circle. So, and even like the people, places, brands, etc., things that you're following online as well, right? And so in that is like who is contributing, to your point, to your vision, your goals, the things that you want, right? Supporting you, like showing up positively, sending, encouragement, buying your things, whatever the case may be. And then who's not contributing to that? Maybe sucking out, right? Like sucking the positive energy away from that. Or, yeah, that's one of the things I do, is just like that sort of audit, and making sure that you are around, and have people in your circle that can support what you're doing and where you want to go and what you want to be. I would say a third thing is kind of like that, right? Like protect your space and your energy. And in addition to doing that, it's not even a 3B, it's probably a fourth. And protect your space and energy, and then just allocate time to yourself every day.
Yeah.
And protecting your space and energy, I think it goes to who are you around?
Yeah.
Not letting things come into your force field, into your space that don't serve,
that distract you from where you're going.
That distract you from where you're going, who you want to be, becoming what you believe. And then the time to yourself, I think that's really imperative, because, whether you're taking a walk, Billy and I were texting, and earlier he was like, yeah, got an urge to go take a walk. And I was like, I hope you followed it.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know what that looked like for him, but, sometimes in the evening after I eat, take a walk and leave my phone in, just to be present.
Just to be present and to hear, and the things that it's like prayer.
Yeah. And it's good to, obviously for walking, it's after you eat, that's good for your body, but, just to appreciate the things that are happening around me and not be distracted, because so many people are just walking around doing this. And I think we do things so mindlessly now. So when we have time to ourselves, and you don't necessarily have to be disconnected from your device, but having time for yourself, as you mentioned, right? It could be to pray, to talk to your higher power, or it could be to listen, or it could be to write, reflect, things like that. I think are really, really imperative for a creative. And I think even in that time to yourself, right? Finding some sort of well-being, mental health practice that contributes to your well-being. You got to make that time every day. You got to build the consistency to do that. So those are the 3 and 4 things that I would, yeah. Okay. Add, follow at creative_en. Buy the products. If, maybe you're listening to this and it's not, the products that are created aren't for you. They're for everybody, right? Anybody can use them, but I specifically speak to creatives. But maybe, maybe you don't necessarily need it, but your friend, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, they might need it, right? Support. So I'm at creative_en on all socials. If something moved you, connect with me. I don't have somebody running my accounts. If you want to work and whatever, hit the email or contact button in my Instagram that goes to my email. So yeah, support the work, and don't just, we don't need thoughts and prayers. We need action, right?
I love
something
that.
happens, thoughts and prayers, or prayer, like,
that's
no,
great.
like take action. Like, I'll say this for creatives too. I really do appreciate the people that show up in the sort of, protecting, like setting your boundaries, the people that call to check in.
Me too.
That either repost the work, maybe that repost and buy the work. all the things, the people that really, really support, because it's like it's great to be seen, as we talked about at the beginning, but it's another thing to be supported. So it's like, man, I see what you're doing. I watch what you're doing. And that's great. Thank you. But take action. And that's just really, the impetus around my work, specifically for the creative community, is like, I want to encourage you and implore you to take action. And that's why I have all the things that I have, the things that I've created. But I would also likewise say that to, the support system of people that aren't creatives is, support the creatives.
Excellent.
We need it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And you've created something for people, an opportunity for people to support you.
Thank you.
While they're also helping themselves and supporting their families and their mental and emotional well-being. Ian, thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed this conversation. We will put all of the links, all the appropriate links in the show notes and all that great stuff. And I really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for kind of opening this space for both of us.
Yeah. Likewise. Yeah. Likewise. Thank you for creating the space and having me here. I'm so honored to be a part of this and excited to watch you continue to evolve. You have so many things, amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you.
With this and all of your other ventures and the products that you create. When you said that, when I heard that in your bio, I'm like, oh, and even you said, oh, we're doing a lot of similar things.
We are, for sure.
You're a dope person. So
for sure.
You.
Thank you. Thank you. That was an insightful conversation that I had with Ian Davis. I think with creatives, it's really important that we remember that it's about the creative work, and it's also about ensuring that you find a way to be able to support and continue to do that creative work. I really appreciate the tips that Ian shared and the heart and passion that he brought to the conversation around the very important topic of wellness and business acumen within the life of a creative. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. I encourage you, as always, to like, share, comment, and tell somebody. Don't just share it on social media. Tell someone about the podcast. I'd really appreciate that. Until next time, be amazing.